The kitchen's so small. Where am I going to fit all the food in the fridge? I don't have enough pantry space. And where am I going to put all my pots and pans and all my dishes?
And how are you going to bake the cookies and the breads and the pies? That's the important thing.
So yeah, you might have a lot of questions when you first start full-time RVing or move into your RV for any amount of time, because yeah, the kitchen is really small. And so I had tons of concerns and questions when we started full-time RVing 8 months ago. And so I've learned a lot, and I thought maybe I could share them with you and it would help you a little bit overcome your fears, because now I love cooking in the RV. I cook everything that I did prior to living in the RV when we lived in a house, but with having much less stuff stored. You know, you always had that place in the kitchen that was like a cabinet you barely ever went in, that had some weird pan that you didn't know like what you were supposed to make in it. And so all those things are gone. I've pared it down to the basics, and so hopefully some of these tips will help you out. And so I'm going to be making some chili as we go along here, but I'm going to get these tips in here for you. First off, being know your kitchen. So, you know, it seems pretty basic. What size is your kitchen? If you have not yet bought your rig or RV, then, you know, you can take all these things into consideration. I know I've talked to people who they specifically bought their rig because of the kitchen, because they wanted a ton of counter space, and it varies widely depending what type of rig you get. So know how much counter space you have. Does your stove convert into like space that you can use? Like ours, this flips up, has the stove, and then, you know, I can set things on top. A lot of them come with the sinks that cover up, so then you can use that space if you're not using the sink. Cabinet space for your dry goods and all your pantry items, and know how you're going to use your space in your kitchen. You look at our kitchen, and we decided against getting an oven because we wouldn't use it that much. We needed storage space instead. So you look here and you think like, oh, you have a ton of storage space in the kitchen. Well, 2 of our kitchen drawers down here are used for clothing because we have 3 kids, and so we had to fit McKenna's clothing in there, and so that doesn't count as our kitchen space. Tips for how to make more space in your kitchen. Alright, so one of the things I recommend is measuring out your cabinets, like exactly what the space is. Ours has an adjustable shelf, you can adjust that up and down. But get the depth, the length, the width, the height, whatever. And then get containers. Go online. I actually put the measurements, went online, found containers that I could fit the most container space in here. So I have these square ones, I have these tall ones, and the reason these work so much better is, like you can see, if you just have a mix of boxes and jars and stuff, it's like a puzzle every time, you know, depending when we go to the grocery store, what we get. So if you have these containers, you can do pasta, you can do rice, I could have my oatmeal in one, you could have chips or pretzels, be neatly fit in here, and it maximizes the use of the space. So that's like probably my #1 tip. So we did have to lose storage space for McKenna and her clothing. Go figure, teenage girls, you know, they need their share of clothing. But what we loved about this rig when we got it was it has tons of pantry space. So we knew we could go without those 2 drawers. So in here we've got these slide out drawers, and these are fantastic. You can fit just all kinds of stuff in there. While I'm in here, I want to get out the beans for the chili, so let me get those. But we have storage space here. We also have pantry space down here, which is tucked in. This is really convenient, and you can see we actually, and I just was shopping yesterday, and this isn't even full, so it's great when you can have a lot of space. Up here is all the spices and all those little things. So if you know you're going to do a lot of cooking, you have a big family, you know, like with the 5 of us, pantry space is wonderful. If you don't use it for pantry space, you can just use it, you know, for anything else that you have in your RV. But it's great to have all this extra space in our kitchen. So I really like this feature with the sink that covers up, but also the stove that covers up. And this one actually came like this. If it doesn't, you could make something that would go across, because this gives you a lot of extra space sometimes, you know, to store things up here. Although don't store too much, because then when you go to use the stove, you can't get to it. But it just flips up, and then, you know, you use it as your stove. So I'm gonna get my chili going really quickly. Oh, here's another little tip, because in the kitchen, if you're just pouring like the juice from, you know, cans and stuff down your drain, at home you may have done that in a house. In the RV, it's gonna start to smell really bad, and Brian will tell you, and Jared, because they always dump the tanks, that it actually, the gray tanks smell worse than the black tanks, because in the beginning we were pouring all the juices from, so if we had canned chicken or beans or fruit, we were just pouring it down the sink. So now we just pour it in a container like this, and then when we have an empty milk container or something like that, we just pour it in there and throw it out in the dumpster, and that works really well. All right, so another little tip for making more space in your kitchen is underneath here, you usually have some wood cabinets. You can put hooks under there to maybe hang your dishcloths, or they make banana hooks. If you get bananas, you can hang those there. You can get those under the cabinet, paper plate holders, of course the paper towel holders. Those work really well. I'm a big fan of having drawer space, so we got these little things early on our travels, because with all 5 of us, we're always having stuff. So these actually come apart. They're just quick little drawers that we keep from keys to change to doggy bags to pens, matches. And then when we travel, these are real easy. We just pick these up and throw them in the microwave, and they both go in there, and then we travel. So that way it's a way of keeping all those tiny little things in one place, but yet easy enough to just pack up when we pack up everything and move. One question I have for you though, all right, this is our garbage. And we've struggled for 8 months of like where to put our garbage so it's kind of not in the way, and we haven't figured that out yet. So we always just use a bag and put it on a door handle. But if you have a good tip for where you put your RV garbage and, you know, kind of store it out of the way, let us know, because we'd love to hear ideas on that. The other thing with dealing with your RV kitchen is knowing what you have to cook with. Like, does your kitchen come with a stove? Does it come with an oven? Or if you're like us and you choose against the oven, do you at least have a convection microwave? So we have the convection microwave. That's nice. I've learned to cook with that. So I use a convection oven in the microwave in lieu of having a regular oven. And at first I was scared, but it was all good, and it works really, really well. So those 2 things came with it. So I can cook in the microwave, I can cook in the convection oven, I can cook on the stovetop. Then sometimes we cook over the fire. You can take along a grill. We have a very small grill. I've seen, you know, RVers that have really huge grills. So if you like to cook out a lot and grill, that may be one of your cooking options.
And there is a reason that we haven't cooked on the grill or on the fire.
Why?
Too much lately, like in the past 3 months, because we've been in a spell where we haven't been less than 85 degrees.
That's true.
And we don't, when it's that hot, we're just not into the fires.
It's been a lot longer than 3 months though. It's been June, July, August, September.
Yeah.
It's been 5 months.
So it's like,
and
I don't need an extra
no
300 degrees of heat when it's already 85, 90 and humid. So
we'll get back to that more. Then you need to decide like what smaller items you might want to have. I know a lot of people have toaster ovens. We don't have a toaster oven. We have a sandwich maker, like a grilled cheese sandwich maker, that the kids like to use that a lot. So that's one of the items we have. You may have a toaster. You may have a solar oven. I know people have solar ovens and they cook outside a lot too. That's one thing I've looked into. We haven't gotten one yet. We may get one.
They're too big.
We talked. He says they're too big. But we may try that. If you've cooked with a solar oven, comment on that down below too, because I'd love to hear more about that. That fascinates me, especially when we're boondocking and all. So anyway, but I'm getting off topic. All right. Oh, how could I forget? A pressure cooker. So like an Instapot, we have a Kasori instant cooker pot, and that acts as a slow cooker. So your traditional crock pot, and it can do instant meals. So we use that quite a bit. Actually, that's probably Jared's favorite way to cook. You throw some chicken in there, some salsa and rice or whatever, you know, 15 minutes later you have a meal. So that's another great one to have. That if you have storage space, I would highly recommend having one of those. A lot of people have coffee makers. We don't do coffee, so we don't take up space on our counter with coffee. But the difficult thing with the gadgets and the appliances that you bring along is, do you have room to fit them? And we brought along a Cuisinart for chopping, and we brought along a blender. And I must say it was very, very difficult to fit them in the cabinets in the beginning. And there was many a day that Jared's like, can we get rid of this? We never use it. And truthfully, I didn't use them a lot because it was so hard to get them out and dig through the cabinets. But what's nice though, if you take extra stuff, after a few months, you're gonna find what you're not using, and we've gotten rid of some things. I know a waffle maker was one of the things we got rid of, and we put that into storage because we just don't use it. And so we freed up some space, and you know, so if there's something you've thought you didn't need and now you want to have it, you can just go get it and purge the stuff you don't need. So it'll probably take you a couple months to figure out, you know, what you use the most, because now we use the blender all the time because we have smoothies, now that I can get to it, and we do use the Cuisinart all the time. So the third tip for using your kitchen in your RV would deal with like your utensils, your tools, your pots and your pans, everything you're gonna need. This was a really tough one for me to pare down from my big kitchen in the house with all the stuff that I love, because I love cooking and baking and canning and all that good stuff. So I pared it down to what I thought I would need, and there have been some things I've gotten rid of, and there's one thing that I didn't bring because I'm like, oh, I don't need that, and I went out and bought it. It was a 13x9 baking pan. So, you know, if it's something that's not too expensive, you can just go out and buy it. Otherwise, you know, bring the stuff that you think you'll need if you have room for it, and purge it if you don't need it. But some tips on taking up less space with all your utensils and things. One, we basically just have one bowl, one plate, and one cup for everybody. So there's 5 people. We don't need the whole ton of stuff because we don't have a dishwasher other than ourselves. You know, don't have the electric dishwasher to just throw the dishes in and, you know, keep that like kind of as an extra cabinet, you know. And so we don't have that space, and you have to do your dishes right away. You don't have a big sink. It would start to smell in the RV pretty darn quickly if you weren't keeping up with your dishes. So it's fine to just have one bowl, one plate, and one cup for everybody. And what we also do, and I got this tip came offline from another full-time RVer before we started, and it was to just have one spoon, one fork, and one knife for everybody. And we have it marked down there with nail polish. So Daddy, are you black?
No. No.
Jared is black.
No,
I'm
pink. Mine is special. So I'm going to show
Oh,
mine.
that's right.
So while
we
these
didn't mark his.
Utensil drawer hogs have a spoon and a knife and a fork, I have this.
Yes.
This is my titanium sporkif.
Sporkif?
Yes. It's a
How do
spoon,
you use
fork,
it as a knife?
and a knife.
Oh, it
it's
has
got
a
the
little
serrated
serrated
edge, fork, and a nice spoon. I wash it every time I use it, put it back in the drawer, and everything is good.
But that's a little tip. So we just take the nail polish and put it on each one. Also keeps the kids up with their dishes, because if they go to eat something and their fork is dirty, well, they got to clean the fork before they eat again. So let me stir my chili. It's bubbling away. Chili is one of our go-to meals because I can make the chili like really, really quickly. You know, I just dump the beans, the tomatoes. Sometimes we add meat to it, and it just cooks for a little while. And then we like chili because we can have it over rice, we can have it with chips, we can have it over pasta, we have it over baked potatoes. So chili is one of those things. I like to make a lot of it. It's one of the few things that we end up having some leftover, so we can maybe have it for 2 days, which is a long time in our house with Jared. So I guess the best way to show you kind of, I'll just give you an example of what we use. We have a family of 5. We do a lot of cooking and baking in here, so I'm going to just show you. Maybe this will help you decide what you want to take along. I'll show you what we have, what we pared down to, and we've been surviving for almost 9 months now with these. I have the big pot, like I'm cooking the chili in. I just made a big pot of rice today, so we have just 2 sizes of pots. We also have, the only other pot we have would be like a skillet, and we don't use this too often, but we still use it enough, probably at least once a week. The other pot I use almost every day. Since I bake a lot of bread, I didn't bring bread pans. I wasn't sure if I could bake bread in my convection oven, but it works great, so I did go out and buy just some bread pans. I have a 8x8 baker that we like to make. You can make brownies or bar cookies, and McKenna likes green bean casserole. We make that in here all the time. What else do we have? One of the things that I had trouble getting rid of was bowls. I love mixing bowls. I don't know why. And it was like a sign. And like 6 months before we moved, I broke 2 and Jared broke 1, which I don't know that I've ever broke a mixing bowl, but somehow we kept dropping things. So I lost 3 right there. But the only bowls that we brought along is I brought along my one measuring one for when I make pancakes or something pourable. Then I have just a standard metal bowl because Brian's like really picky about weight in the RV, so I was not allowed to bring any of my ceramic bowls. This doesn't get stored in the kitchen. This goes just like on top of the bunk bed of Alex's bed because there's no place else to fit it. But I bake bread a lot, and although Jared complains about the bowl, he loves the bread. So this just kind of has its own space. It's special. I got these for Christmas last year. These are heavy. I got glass bowls because we wanted these for being able to cook in the microwave and to store foods to heat them up. So we actually use these a lot. The big one gets used a lot for our salad bowl. So this is one thing I got. And if you do like to have a lot of kitchen bowls and stuff like that, you can go and find lots of different nesting bowls, plastic nesting bowls, and things like that that will fit perfectly. So if you are really, really tight on space, get some of the things that nest, and then you'll be able to fit more stuff. I'd say everything that I've shown you we do use at least once a week. So it is things that we need all the time. Oh, and the 13x9 pan I mentioned, that gets stashed up here that actually can fit up there. And that we use a lot too. So you'll learn though kind of what dishes do you need, what types of pots you're going to cook with, and you'll learn that as you go. Okay, tip number 4 deals with meal planning, and my big questions were, will we still be able to eat as healthy as we did when we were in the house, when we're in the RV and have less space, and will we be able to make the same recipes that, you know, all our favorite recipes? And it answered yes to both of those questions. When we started out, I probably only had 4 or 5 recipes that I knew I could make in here, and keep in mind I was scared of the convection oven, so I wasn't making things in there yet. But over time we're now up to probably 15 or more recipes that we regularly make, and so we've learned as we've gone and tried different recipes, and you know, developed our recipe box of our favorites. And then I like to split them up into 2 different categories. One is I call them boondocking recipes. So when we're boondocking and we don't have full hookups, we don't want to be using a lot of dishes, we don't want to be using a lot of power, so I'll cook on the propane stove, but we won't use the microwave, the convection oven, all those things. So I have recipes that either can be cooked in like one pot, because you also don't want to have a lot of cleanup because of the trying to conserve water. And then I'll have another, so I'll put a B next to them if they're good for boondocking. And then recipes that are quick, I will put a Q next to them. And that's for, you know, when we're out all day, maybe we're out hiking or we went to sightsee or something like that. We come back, it's like 5:30 and I gotta make something within like 30 minutes. So I have recipes for that. So you might want to separate your recipes out, find, you know, what you really enjoy making. And, you know, if you have more time, there are still days that I love to cook and I'll spend, you know, most of the day prepping some food in here and getting some things ready. So we still do that sometimes, but I do have the recipes split up into different types so that it makes it easier on those certain days. So what follows along with meal planning is shopping. And if you're meal planning, you can make the shopping easier. So you have your recipes and then you just can look down, you know, at those 12, 15, 20 recipes and figure out what you're going to eat that week depending on where you are. You know, are you boondocking? Are you going to have a full hookup? That kind of thing. And then you can plan your meals for the week. We do by week because we really can't stock up on enough food to feed the 5 of us for much more than a week. We go through a lot of food. So we generally do weekly meal planning. So I go through the recipes, you know, these are the things we're gonna have all week, and then I can make up my grocery shopping list and go to the grocery store, get all those things we need, and be set for the week. We might throw some extras in there if it fits in the budget. And that works out really well. We do a lot of fresh produce, salads, things like that. So we need to keep space in the fridge for that. So I found we are dealing a lot more with canned goods and dried goods than we did when we were living in a house. I used to have a lot of frozen vegetables. Now our freezer is kind of stocked with frozen fruit for McKenna because we like to have fruit if we can't access fresh fruit. So we will get frozen fruit to use a lot, and some chicken and some different things in there. So when it comes to vegetables and things like that, we generally get them in a can. That way they're non-perishable. We also get dried beans, dried lentils. We keep all those things on hand, and that way if we are running short on food, we can always, you know, find something in the cans of the dried goods that get us through when, you know, we're running short or our fridge is packed with produce and other things like that, since it is, you know, a much smaller fridge and freezer than we're used to having. All right, so I need to finish up my chili. I'm just gonna add one more thing, the texturized vegetable protein instead of meat. Sometimes we do meat, but other times we run out of meat because we only go shopping once a week. So then I have this on hand. We actually keep a lot of this around. And it just takes on the flavor of whatever it goes in. And that'll cook for like another minute or two till that all cooks in. So within like 15-20 minutes I can make a decent pot of chili. So that leads to a final tip with using your RV kitchen, and that is to keep it clean. Because it's not only your kitchen, it's probably part of some other room in your house. Like our kitchen is also part of the twins' bedroom and McKenna's desk space, and you know, their school area. So if you have stuff, even a few things, like, I mean, just while we've been talking here, you know, I have my spices out here, the thing of rice is here, and it looks like really messy, and you know, with all this stuff out here. So you got to keep it clean, keep stuff put away. It's harder with kids, I know. And the big thing is keep the sink cleaned out, because if you get a few dishes in there, they can really start to smell, and it just kind of gets icky. And the bad thing about the covers that go on the sink is, in the beginning our kids would just kind of cover the sink with the covers, and we thought this sink of course was clean because we wouldn't put the cover on if it wasn't clean. And there were dishes in there, and then like 2 days later you're like, oh, what's that smell? And it's because they put the cover on and dirty dishes were in there yet. And that's the nice thing about living in an RV, is it doesn't take you long to clean. I mean, it's like, you know, 5 minutes and the whole kitchen's clean. So it's really good. All right, so these are some of the things that we've learned in our 8 months of full-time RVing, and I really hope they helped you. Because like I said at the beginning, one of my biggest concerns was cooking in the RV and how we were going to do it and how we were going to manage, and it's been fine. It's been great. But if you have any other questions for me of something I didn't cover or just didn't think to mention, put those in the comments down below. If you want to see more videos on RV living or follow our adventures across the country, please hit that subscribe button, hit like, and stay tuned for tomorrow's video,